3 months after the divorce, Claire Sterling reached out to me for the first time. It was 1 a.m. She was standing in the hallway of my apartment building, holding a toiletry bag, her hair dripping wet. The water shut off in my building for repairs. "Can I use your shower?" I stepped aside to let her in, the familiar scent of citrus filling the small space. Even her excuses were clumsy. This was a woman with a serious obsession with cleanliness, yet here she was, willing to step into what she used to call my dump. I'd left the marriage with almost nothing. Just this rundown, 650 square foot one-bedroom in an old building. Claire hadn't even blinked at the time. Only after signing the papers did she look up and say one thing. "Cole, you'll regret this." Now, it seemed like she was the one with regrets. The sound of the shower hissed behind the bathroom door. I knelt in the living room to straighten the slippers she'd kicked aside. The soles were caked with dried mud. This wasn't like her. Claire was the type to wipe down the heels of her stilettos before leaving the house. The water shut off. The door cracked open, a wave of steam rolling out. "Hey," her voice was muffled by the humidity. "Could you grab me some clothes?" "What clothes?" "I forgot to bring a change." I pulled a faded t-shirt and a pair of gym shorts from the drying rack. When I passed them through the crack in the door, my fingers brushed against hers, wet and cool. She snatched her hand back like she'd been burned. 3 minutes later, she emerged wearing my old clothes. The sleeves were rolled up 3 times just to free her wrists, and a shirt hem fell to her mid-thigh. "Thanks," she said, clutching the collar. "I'll return them tomorrow." "Don't worry about it." The air grew heavy with silence again. She stood there, slowly towel-drying her hair, as if she were waiting for something. "You can sit," I said, pulling open the fridge. "Want some water?" "Ice, please." My hand paused. I twisted the cap off before handing it to her. She took a small sip. "I can't believe you still remember." Her voice was so quiet it was almost a whisper to herself. I twisted the cap off another bottle and chugged half of it, saying nothing. The month before we split, she'd had cramps so bad she broke out in a cold sweat. I'd stayed up to make her ginger tea. She hadn't touched it. "Cole, I don't need your cheap sympathy." Now, holding a bottle of ice-cold water, she was bringing up the fact that I remembered her cycle. "I'll never understand women." "The building manager said the water will be back on at 6 a.m., she said suddenly. "Okay, could I maybe—" "No." Her lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes turning a little red. I looked away. "You can have the couch for a few hours." My voice was rougher than I intended. "But you have to be gone before I leave for work in the morning." She nodded immediately, as if afraid I'd change my mind. I tossed a blanket onto the couch and went into my bedroom. As I shut the door, I caught a glimpse of her curled up, her nose brushing against the edge of the blanket. She looked like a kid who'd just gotten away with stealing a cookie. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of thunder. A heavy downpour hammered against the window panes, and I remembered I'd left laundry on the balcony. When I opened my bedroom door, the couch was empty. The bathroom light was on. Claire was hunched over the ancient washing machine, her back to me. "It's leaking," she said, pointing to a puddle on the floor. I was going to do a load of laundry. The plumbing in this old building was shot. Water was still dripping from a joint. I rolled up my sleeves and started looking for a wrench. She silently handed me a towel and a bucket, then knelt beside me as I worked. Her breath was a soft presence just behind my ear. It was just like all the times I used to fix things around our old house. "Done." I tightened the last bolt. As I stood up, I nearly bumped into her. She steadied me with a hand on my arm, then quickly let go. "Thanks." The rain began to soften. "When we divorced," she said suddenly, "you said we should never see each other again." She looked down at her hands. "Me being here now, it's pathetic, isn't it?" I put the wrench down. "Yeah, it is." The color drained from her face. "But the fact that you came," I added, hesitating for a second, "I'm surprised." Her eyes lit up, just like they used to when I'd agree to celebrate an anniversary. Then I twisted the knife. "After all, you're a neat freak, and I don't even own a decent bottle of disinfectant." Her mouth opened, but she didn't say a word. When I woke up the next morning, she was gone. The couch was so neat you couldn't tell anyone had slept on it. My t-shirt and shorts were folded on the coffee table. Next to them was a sticky note. "Pipe is fixed. Left money for it on the shoe rack." I lifted the insole of my running shoe. Underneath were 3 crisp $100 bills. I stared at the money, remembering our last fight before the divorce. She'd thrown a glass against the wall. Cole, you think money solves everything. Now she was learning to use my own tactics against me. I stuffed the cash into the toiletry bag she'd left behind, planning to give it back later. As I left for work, the old lady from across the hall, Mrs. Gable, was coming back with groceries. Cole, dear, was that young woman last night your new girlfriend? I shook my head. My ex-wife. Mrs. Gable blinked. Oh my, you wouldn't know it. She was sweet enough to take your trash out for you. I glanced at the corner of the landing and saw my trash can was empty. Claire hated taking out the trash. We used to fight about it all the time. She said the bags were disgusting when they got wet. I told her if she didn't want to make trash, she should stop eating. And now, she'd willingly hauled away 2 days' worth of my takeout containers. Guess pigs do fly. I worked until 9 that Saturday night. Walking out of the office building, I saw a familiar license plate. Claire was leaning against her car, wearing the white dress we bought for our wedding anniversary. I was in the neighborhood, she said, handing me a paper bag. You left this book at my place. I took the bag. Inside, along with the book, were a bottle of antacids and a thermos. Pick these up on the way. Your way just happened to take you to that little soup place in Lincoln Park. A faint blush crept up her neck. Take it or leave it. I opened the passenger door and slid in. Could use a ride. She froze for a second. Then a small smile played on her lips as she bent down to fasten her seatbelt. The car was filled with that faint citrus scent, the same as her perfume. Mind if I turn on some music? Whatever you want. I turned on the stereo. It was the same album I'd had on repeat in the months before the divorce. She hadn't deleted it. Get your car fixed? I asked. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened. Yeah. Engine doesn't sound right. I pointed at the dashboard. You're due for a tune-up. She just grunted in response. While we were stopped at a red light, she suddenly asked, You never got another car? Didn't have the money. Her fingers tapped against the steering wheel. She didn't say anything else. By the time we reached my neighborhood, it had started to rain again. She pulled an umbrella from the back seat. This is the only one I have. It was the long-handled umbrella I'd left in her car ages ago. The handle still had a worn sticker on it from a road trip we'd taken. Thanks. I pushed the door open. She rolled down the window. Cole. The rain was coming down hard. I leaned down, waiting, but she just shook her head. Never mind. Get going. Her taillights vanished around the corner. I stood there for a long time until the building's security guard came out. Mr. Jackson, was that your wife? Haven't seen her around in a while. I opened the umbrella. The sticker was faded and peeling, just like the look on her face when she couldn't find the words. Wednesday was a team-building night at work. I ran into Claire in the hallway of a karaoke bar. She was surrounded by a group of clients, her face pale as one of them kept trying to press a drink on her. I was about to walk away when I saw one of the men put his hand on her waist. I walked over and took the glass from her hand. I'll drink it for her. Claire's head snapped up, her eyes wide like a startled cat. The client scowled. Who the hell are you? Her ex-husband. The atmosphere turned instantly awkward. Claire tugged on my sleeve. Cole, don't make a scene. I downed the drink in one go and pulled her toward the exit. Behind us, someone catcalled, Hey, Director Sterling's ex is pretty handsome. She struggled the whole way to the parking lot. What was that about? She demanded. Teaching you a lesson, I said, letting her go. You're allowed to say no to things you don't want to do. She stood there, rubbing her wrist. You think I wanted to drink that? Then don't. Easy for you to say. Are you going to pay my bills? The words hung in the air, and we both froze. She'd said the same thing during one of our last fights. Back then, I'd shot back. Can't afford to. This time, I just took off my jacket and draped it over her shoulders. You should get an Uber home. She clutched the lapels. You take me. I've been drinking. Then we'll walk. Her eyes were red, like she was about to cry. I could never stand it when she looked like that. Wait here. I'll call a car. 6 by the time the driver arrived. She'd fallen asleep in the passenger seat. Her head was resting against the window, her breath fogging a small patch of the glass. While we were stopped at a light, she mumbled, Cole, my stomach hurts. Her eyes were still closed. It was like she was talking in her sleep. I pulled out the thermos from earlier and handed it to her. Drink some hot water. She obediently took a couple of sips. Then her eyes fluttered open. This isn't the thermos from my car. I bought it. You bought a pink one? It was on sale. A small smile touched her lips, and she took another sip. When we got to her building, she was wide awake, clutching my jacket. Can I stay at your place again tonight? No. The light in my bathroom is out. I'm scared of the dark. You showered there just fine yesterday. I want to shower today, too. I just looked at her. Her gaze darted everywhere, but at my face. Claire. What? If you want to get back together, just say it. The tips of her ears turned bright red. Who? I want to get back together. Good. That's settled then. I turned to unlock my building's door. She rushed to follow me in, but I didn't say I wouldn't consider it. The elevator doors closed, and the mirrored walls reflected her flushed face. I pressed the button for my floor. Consider what? Consider giving you a chance. I don't want it. She stomped on my foot. You're an asshole, Cole. The doors opened. I stepped out and fumbled for my keys. From behind me, she said in a small voice, then I'll give you a chance to win me back. Okay? My hand paused on the lock. We'll see. She pushed past me into the apartment, kicking off her heels. I'm hungry. Make me some mac and cheese, with a fried egg on top. She said it like she owned the place. I leaned against the shoe rack, watching her. You've been acting weird lately. Her back stiffened. Have I? When we divorced, you said you never wanted to see me again. Now you're always around. She turned, her eyes red again. You really don't want to see me that much. You're the one who wanted the divorce. So I can't regret it, she yelled. After her outburst, the apartment was completely silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator. She just stood there, looking like a kid who'd been caught. I sighed. You want the egg runny? A tear rolled down her cheek. Yes. 7, she was asleep on the couch by the time the food was ready. Her eyelashes were still damp. I knelt and watched her, remembering the first time I saw her. It was at a college mixer. She was wearing a white dress, sitting in a corner eating cake, a smudge of frosting on her lip. I'd handed her a napkin. She'd said, "Thanks, you're a really nice guy." She was the one who pursued me. She used to wait outside my dorm with breakfast every morning. My friends were all jealous that I'd landed such a beautiful girlfriend. Only I knew how difficult she could be. She'd bite when she was angry. She'd bite when she was happy. I still have a faint scar on my wrist from her. The day we got divorced, she didn't bite me. She just calmly signed the papers. Cole, she'd said, this is the end of the road for us. And now here she was, asleep on my couch, clutching the corner of my shirt like a lost kitten. Food's ready. I gently shook her shoulder. She blinked her eyes open. Cole, yeah. Can we? Before she could finish, her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with the word mom. She was instantly awake. She silenced the call. Can we what? Nothing. She sat up and started eating, but the tips of her ears were slowly turning red. The next day was Saturday. I woke up to noises in the kitchen. Claire was there, wearing my apron, trying to fry an egg. She was so clumsy she looked like she was trying to defuse a bomb. It's burning, I said. She jumped, and the spatula clattered to the floor. You walk like a ninja. I picked it up and rinsed it. Let's just go out for breakfast. No. She snatched it back. I can do this. In the end, we ate burnt eggs and undercooked oatmeal. She kept sneaking glances at me. It's awful, isn't it? It's fine. Liar. She put her spoon down. I know I'm a terrible cook, but I'm trying to learn. I looked up. Her ears were red again. She poked at the blackened egg. Mrs. Gable said the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Which Mrs. Gable? The one downstairs who's been divorced. I nearly choked. She's been divorced 3 times. Oh, after we quietly finished the disastrous breakfast, she insisted on washing the dishes. I leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching her. Claire, why do you regret it? Her hand slipped, and a plate clattered in the sink. Luckily, it didn't break. The faucet ran as she stood with her back to me for a long time. Because her phone rang again. It was her mom. She scowled and rejected the call. When she turned around, her eyes were red-rimmed. Because I realized, she said, her voice trembling, that all the guys I was set up with after the divorce, none of them were as good as you. I never expected to see Claire's mother under these circumstances. We were in a cafe at a mall. Across from me sat a meticulously made-up middle-aged woman. Cole, I hear you and Claire have been in touch recently. I stir my coffee. Just a coincidence. That girl is just so stubborn. We never agreed to the divorce in the first place. The waitress came by to refill our water. I took the opportunity to glance out the window. Claire was at a jewelry counter next door, looking at rings. Her profile was soft under the bright lights. She's been seeing you often, her mother pressed. Yeah. She just has a soft heart. That son of Director Thompson's was such a good match. I don't know why she had to make such a fuss. I put my spoon down. Ma'am, I said, my voice even. She divorced me because I was broke. You don't have to beat around the bush. Her expression tightened. Well, now there's another opportunity. The Thompsons are willing to reconnect. So if you would. Claire suddenly appeared at our table, a small bag from the jeweler in her hand. Mom, you promised you wouldn't bring this up. I'm doing this for your own good. If you want what's good for me, then stop setting me up on blind dates. Other customers were starting to stare. I stood up to pay the bill. I'll let you two talk. I'm leaving. Claire grabbed my wrist. We're leaving together. Her mother's face was a mask of fury. Claire. She pulled me out of the cafe without looking back. 10 inches the underground parking garage. She let go of my hand. I'm sorry. My mom, she's... I get it. I opened the passenger door. Get in. You're not mad? At what? She stared at me for a few seconds, then ducked into the car. Then I need you to take me somewhere. Where? The cemetery. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. In the rearview mirror, she was staring out the window, her expression unreadable. It had been weeks since the anniversary of her dad's death. It's the day he passed, she said softly. I was in the middle of a fight when he died. I never got to say goodbye. I started the car. Why didn't you say so earlier? Because then you wouldn't have met my mom. A bitter smile touched her lips. I'm a real piece of work, aren't I? I knew she'd say those things to you, but I still couldn't resist the chance to see you. The windshield wipers swished back and forth like a metronome. Claire. Yeah. You don't need an excuse to see me. She froze, and then a tear slid down her cheek. Cole, my dad. He said you were a good kid. He told me not to mess things up with you. I pulled the car over to the side of the road and handed her a tissue. It's okay to cry. It'll ruin my makeup. You're impossible. She laughed through her tears, a sob catching in her throat. 11 The cemetery was on the outskirts of the city. The rain had stopped by the time we got out of the car. She walked ahead of me, carrying a bouquet of flowers, her steps slow as if to delay the inevitable. The year my dad died, she began. We had just gotten married. He took my hand and said, Claire, Cole is a good man. You need to be patient with him. And what did I do? I just bullied you all the time. The man in the photograph on the headstone had a kind smile. He had her eyes. She knelt and gently wiped the marble. Dad, I'm here to see you. I brought Cole with me. A breeze rustled through the pine trees, shaking raindrops from the needles. I stepped back to give her some space, but I could still hear her choked whisper. I lost him, Dad. What do I do? On the drive back, she was silent. Just as we were nearing my apartment, she spoke. Do you regret it? Marry me back then. I turned the steering wheel, making the turn onto my street. Regret what? Like, not finding someone nicer, gentler. I hit the brakes at a red light and turned to look at her. You're not gentle. You burn eggs. You're an ugly crier, and you bite when you're mad. Her eyes slowly widened, a storm brewing in them. I smiled. But Claire, I never once compared. The light turned green. A car behind us honked. She turned her head away, but I saw her reflection in the window. She was smiling. 12. I woke up with a fever that night, probably from the cold wind at the cemetery. There was a cooling patch on my forehead, and Claire was slumped in a chair by the bed, asleep, still clutching a damp washcloth. I shifted, and she woke instantly. You're awake? Her hand flew to my forehead. Thank God, the fever's down. What time is it? 3 a.m., she said, pouring a glass of water. The doctor said it was just exhaustion. I took the glass. You called a doctor? Yeah. She avoided my eyes. I found the number in your contacts. I only had one contact labeled doctor. My mom. She's coming over tomorrow. I choked on my water. What did you tell my mom? Just that you had a fever and I was looking after you. She said she's bringing beef stew in the morning. I buried my face in my hands. Claire. Yeah. You're going to be the death of me. She blinked. For a lifetime, I didn't answer. I just burrowed deeper under the covers. You can take the couch. She giggled as she headed for the living room, her footsteps light and happy, just like they used to be every time we made up. 13. My mom showed up the next morning, as promised, with a pot of beef stew and a lecture. Claire, thank you so much for taking care of him. This boy is just helpless on his own. Claire meekly served the stew. Aren't you two divorced? Yes. So what's this then? I clear my throat. She was just passing by. My mom's gaze flickered between us. Oh, just passing by. The drawn-out words made Claire's ears turn bright red. After lunch, my mom cornered me in the kitchen. What's going on? Exactly what you see. Are you getting back together? We haven't decided. She smacked my arm. That girl is clearly trying. What are you playing hard to get for? I rubbed my arm. Mom, she's the one who left. And you think you were blameless? I fell silent. In the end, we were both responsible for the divorce. As I walked my mom downstairs, she sighed. Son, if you still love her, give it another shot. Life is long, but good people are hard to find. I nodded. As I turned to go back inside, I saw a figure dart away from the balcony window upstairs. Claire had been eavesdropping. 14. I was out of town for a week on business. When I got back, my apartment was spotless. There were new curtains hanging on the balcony, and a grocery receipt was tucked under a magnet on the fridge. I called Claire. Did you change my curtains? Yeah. The blue brightens up the place. And the shoe rack. It was a tripping hazard. I threw it out. Claire. Yeah. Give me my key back. The line went silent. Then I heard a dial tone. 10 minutes later, she was at my door with a cardboard box. Here, take it. She threw the key on the floor, and as she turned to leave, I saw a tear fall. I picked up the key. The box was full of my old things she'd kept, including the lighter she had stolen from me. How did you end up with this? She wiped her eyes. I took it when I left. What? None of your business. I grabbed her arm. Claire. What? I changed the locks. I pressed a new key into her palm. This one's yours. She froze, staring at the key, then back at me. What does that mean? It means you now have clearance, I said, to change the furniture, or even the husband. Her eyes went wide. Who wants to change the husband? Then don't. I bent down to open the box. Give me back my lighter. You quit smoking. What do you need it for? A souvenir. She suddenly wrapped her arms around me from behind, her tears soaking into my shirt. Cole. Yeah. Can we? Her phone rang. She instinctively tightened her grip. I'm finishing this time. Can we get remarried? The motion sensor light in the hallway clicked off, plunging us into darkness. Her heart was beating a frantic rhythm against my back. I turned in her arms. Depends on your performance. Asshole. She bit my shoulder. It was a gentle bite, like she was leaving her mark. 15. She really started to perform. She sent me the weather forecast every morning via text. Getting colder tomorrow. Wear a jacket. Rain predicted. Take an umbrella. I'd reply, okay, and she'd send back an angry emoji. She came over on the weekend to cook. The kitchen looked like a war zone. She held a pot lid like a shield. The oil is splattering. I turned down the heat. Use a nonstick pan next time. Her eyes lit up. There's a next time? Depends on your performance. She started humming as she cooked. She put in too much salt. I forced it down with a big glass of water. She tasted it and grimaced. It's so salty. It's fine. Liar. She snatched the plate and dumped it in the trash. Let's just order something. When the delivery arrived, she pushed me onto the couch. I'll handle this. She set out the plates and bowls, served the soup. It was like she was taking care of a child. Cole. Yeah. Does this count as good performance? Passing. She pouted. Just passing. I stole a shrimp from her container. Okay, now it's a B+. 16. On Wednesday, she showed up wanting to use the shower again. My water heater's broken. What a coincidence. It's true. She held up her phone. Here's the appointment with the repairman. I let her in. She came out wrapped in a towel. Forgot my pajamas. Her hair was dripping, and a droplet of water traced a path down her collarbone. I handed her a towel. You doing this on purpose? Doing what on purpose? Her ears were bright red. It was an accident. As she turned, the towel slipped. She shrieked and grabbed it. I closed my eyes. Get dressed and come out. A few minutes later, she was in the living room, wearing one of my button-down shirts, the hem just barely covering her thighs. Where's your underwear? It's wet. She curled up on the couch, drying her hair. I went to the fridge and got a bottle of water. Cole, spit out. Doesn't this feel kind of like married life? No. How is it not? Because when we were married, you never did this. Did what? I put the bottle down. Walk around dressed like that in front of me. She bit her lip. Do you like it? Her phone rang. She answered it with a frustrated sigh. Mom, I'm still at work. No, really, the project is due tomorrow. I'm not coming home. When she hung up, her eyes were red. She set you up again? I asked. Yeah. She hugged a throw pillow. She said David Thompson is back in town. I took the phone from her hand. Block her. What? I said. I leaned in closer. Block her number. But that's my mom. She's not treating you like a daughter. She's treating you like a bargaining chip. She stared at me, and a tear rolled down her cheek. Do you know why I agreed to the divorce? Her voice was barely a whisper. She used your phone to text me. Said you could do better. That you'd found someone else. I froze. When was this? That time you were on a business trip. The night I got drunk. She nodded. I thought you really didn't want me anymore. So that was it. That bizarre, out-of-the-blue breakup text. Claire. Yeah. You're an idiot. Why didn't you just ask me to my face? She started to cry harder. I was scared you'd say yes. I wiped away her tears. Ask me now. What? Ask me if I still want you. She sniffled. Do you still want me? I do. She collapsed into my arms, the buttons of my shirt digging into my chest. And hers. 17. We didn't get remarried, but we started dating, like a couple of teenagers. We went to the movies and shared a popcorn. She stole the last caramel piece. Mine. I'll make it up to you. I kissed her. The sweetness of the popcorn melted on my tongue. Her face flushed a deep red. Cole, you're being indecent. Yep. And I'll keep doing it. We walked for miles, holding hands. A little kid was selling roses on a street corner. She pretended to look at something else. I bought all of them. Why would you waste money like that? Someone was staring. She looked just like she did on our wedding day, holding the bouquet. Some friends got together for drinks. She sat next to me, sipping a Coke. Someone brought up David Thompson. Heard that guy's divorced. Word is he was abusive. Her hand, holding her glass, turned white-knuckled. I put my arm around her shoulder. It's over. She was quiet on the way home. When we got to her building, she turned to me. If I hadn't come to find you, would you have come for me? Yes. When you learn how to fry an egg without burning it. She punched my arm. Be serious. I looked her in the eye. When you finally grew up. Have I grown up now? The eggs are still burnt. Cole. Her mother showed up at my apartment, unannounced, with David Thompson in tow. Claire, darling, David stopped by to see you. The man looked me up and down. And you are? The ex-husband. I held out my hand. Cole Jackson. He shook it reluctantly. I hear you run a small business? Something like that. Good for you. Being your own boss. His tone was dripping with pity. Claire suddenly linked her arm through mine. His company closed a new round of funding last year. The valuation was in the 8 figures. Both of them stared. I raised an eyebrow at her. She secretly squeezed my hand. When they were leaving, her mother's face was livid. You just wait. The door closed, and Claire sagged against me. Well, that's it. I've completely ruined it. Scared. A little. She looked up at me. But why didn't you tell the truth back there? What truth? The valuation was higher. I grinned. Wanted to give you some room to improvise. She jumped up and wrapped her legs around my waist. So how did I do? Perfect. She kissed me, like she was sealing a deal. That weekend, she moved some of her things over. It's not moving in. I'm just storing some stuff here. Her toothbrush appeared in the cup next to mine. Her underwear found its way into a drawer next to my socks. In the morning, the smell of coffee woke her up. She stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. I need a hug. Don't touch me. You haven't washed your hands. She clung to my back like a koala. Let's get remarried. No. Why not? No ring. She pouted. We can go by one now. When you learn to make a decent meatloaf. You're discriminating against the culinarily challenged. I turned and pulled her into my arms. Claire. Yeah. This is nice. What is? Taking it slow? Her eyes curved into crescents. Okay, we'll take it slow. A bird chirped outside the window. The sunlight caught on her eyelashes, making them look like they were dusted with gold. My company hit a crisis. I spent a week working around the clock. She brought me dinner every night, sitting quietly in the conference room while I worked. Once, I woke up at my desk at 3 a.m. She was still there, editing a PowerPoint deck for me. I can do that. No, you need a rest. We finished it together as the sun came up. She had fallen asleep against my shoulder, a pen still clutched in her hand. My employees took pictures. The boss and his wife are so perfect together. The night we finally pulled through, she cooked a huge meal, and it was all edible. I took a class, she announced proudly. You deserve a medal. As I opened a bottle of wine, she said, Cole, yeah. If we could do it all over again, I would never have signed those papers. I poured the wine. There are no do-overs. Her expression fell. But there is a future, I said, raising my glass. To the future. Our glasses clinked. About getting remarried. She started. Depends on your performance. She laughed and kicked me under the table. Asshole. Yeah, my asshole. She started taking the cooking lessons seriously. The kitchen was covered in sticky notes. 1.5 tablespoons soy sauce. Pan-sear fish for 3 minutes, then flip. I could hear her muttering to herself from the study. That can't be right, the sugar-to-vinegar ratio. I peeked in. She was staring at a tablet, completely frazzled. The ribs in the pan were char-black. The recipe is a lie, she declared, brandishing a spatula. I turned off the stove and switched on the exhaust fan. You missed a step. You have to caramelize the sugar first. She blinked at me. You knew that, and you didn't tell me. You didn't ask. She kicked my shin. It didn't hurt. It was like being pecked by a sparrow. We ended up ordering takeout. She insisted on packing the burnt ribs into a container. I'll eat them for lunch tomorrow. Why torture yourself? It's the price of growth, she said, her cheeks puffed out like a hamster hoarding food. Late that night, I saw a light on in the kitchen. She was back in her apron, marinating a new rack of ribs. I will not be defeated, she whispered. I quietly retreated down the hall without disturbing her. Her mother showed up at my office. The receptionist called me while I was in a meeting. Mr. Jackson, there's a woman here looking for Ms. Sterling. Tell her she's not here. Too late. A shrill voice pierced through the glass walls of the conference room. Cole Jackson, get out here. The meeting ground to a halt. I motioned for my team to continue and stepped outside. Claire was standing in front of the elevators, blocking her mother. Mom, let's talk about this at home. No, we'll talk about it right here. Let everyone hear how a divorced man keeps harassing my daughter. I pushed open the door to the fire escape. Ma'am, in here. The stairwell echoed, making her mother's voice sound even sharper. What's so wrong with David? His father is a director. Claire suddenly laughed. Mom, you used to say the same thing about Dad. And how did that turn out? The older woman's face went pale. Your father was an accident. Director Thompson was arrested last week. I interjected. Financial crimes. The air went still. Her mother clutched her purse. He's still better than you. The elevator dinged. I held the door open. Ma'am, 3 years ago you came to see me. You offered me $2 million to leave Claire. Claire's head whipped around. When was this? The week you were in the hospital with pneumonia. Her mother took a step back. You're lying. I held up my phone, an old audio file ready to play. You said, don't let a poor boy like you hold her back. Remember? The woman's cold, clipped voice filled the stairwell from the recording. Cole, be smart about this. Claire snatched the phone, listened for 10 seconds, then hit stop and handed it back. That's enough. She took my hand. Mom, this is the last time. If you ever bother him again, I'm changing my last name. Just before the elevator doors closed, I saw the woman was crying, but she didn't turn back. That night, Claire came down with a high fever. She was delirious. Dad, don't go. Cole, I lost the ring. I wiped her forehead with a cool cloth. She suddenly bit my wrist. Hard, like she was trying to leave a permanent mark. Why? Why didn't you stop me? The day we finalized the divorce. She had stood at the door with her suitcase for a long time. I'd asked her if she needed a ride. She'd said no. The truth was, I followed her downstairs. I hid behind a tree and watched her get into a car. The last 3 digits of the license plate were 734. Our anniversary. Suddenly, she went quiet. Her tears soaked the pillow. You left your watch at my place. I left it on purpose. Her eyes opened. Her pupils reflected the dim light from the nightstand. You bastard. I know. She rolled in my arms, her body burning like a furnace. You have to win me back all over again. Okay. With flowers. Okay. And you have to tell me you love me every day. Okay. After she fell asleep, I pulled a small velvet box from the back of my desk drawer. Inside was a ring, engraved with our names. Fire and Ice. I planned to give it to her on our 3rd anniversary. This seemed like a better time. After she recovered, she started acting strange. Working late every day. Set a new password on her phone. Once, I saw her smiling at her computer screen. While I got closer, she immediately switched windows. Company secrets? A design proposal for a new mobile game. Her eyes darted around the room. That Wednesday, she said she had to pull an all-nighter. I brought her a late-night snack around midnight. Her office was empty. Her phone's location tracker showed she was at a jeweler on the west side of town. The sales clerk smiled when I walked in. "Mr. Jackson, your fiancé was just here. She said the engraving on the wedding bands will take about 10 days. When I got home, she was at the stove, frying an egg. Long night? She asked, a little too cheerfully. Not too bad. I held up the receipt from the jeweler. The spatula fell from her hand with a clatter. You followed me. I was in the neighborhood. Her ears were scarlet. I was just looking at wedding bands? Just in case. We needed them. For the remarriage. The egg was now a piece of charcoal. I turned off the heat. Claire, what? You stole my idea. I opened the velvet box. She gasped. The ring glittered in the morning light. When did you? 3 years ago. She was crying and laughing at the same time. Then why didn't you say anything? I was waiting for you to learn how to fry an egg. She raised the spatula, threateningly. And how is it now? Burned. Cold. We decided to get engaged on a trip. She insisted on going to a snowy mountain. I heard that if you say yes at an altitude of 15,354 feet, you'll be together forever. I looked up the travel warnings. You'll get altitude sickness. I don't care. Sure enough, she was throwing up before we even reached the base of the mountain. She spent half the time clutching an oxygen tank. I could still do this. On the cable car up, her face was as white as the snow outside. She still insisted on taking selfies. Come on, smile. In the picture, I'm scowling at her. We're going back down. No. At the 14,700-foot viewing platform, she pulled out a ring box with trembling hands. I was going to be the one to propose. She tried to kneel and nearly toppled over. I caught her. What's the rush? I opened my own ring box. She burst into tears, snot bubbling from her nose. You peeked at my script. The other tourists started cheering. Say yes. Marry him. As she reached for the ring, she started to convulse. Oh no, I can't breathe. The emergency medical team strapped an oxygen mask to her face. I was jogging alongside the stretcher, holding the ring out. So, is it a yes or a no? She weakly flipped me the bird. Yes. In her hospital bed later, she admired the ring on her finger. This is a story I can tell for the rest of my life. You almost didn't have a rest of your life. She grinned and kissed me. Worth it. After the engagement, she became even more brazen. She put hot sauce on my toothbrush to spice up our life. I replaced her toothpaste with wasabi. Right back at you. She shrieked and ran for the bathroom, then came out and tackled me, laughing. She tried baking on the weekend. The kitchen looked like a bomb had gone off. Try a cookie. I took a bite. Did you use salt instead of sugar? It's a savory cookie, she insisted, her eyes shining, waiting for praise. It's unique. She looked dejected for about 3 seconds. Well, next time I'll make sweet ones. One night, she shook me awake. Cole, let's have a baby. I turned on the light. Her expression was completely serious. I'm 31. You want a baby? I asked. I want her baby. There was a long silence. I turned off the light. Go to sleep. Her back was to me, but I could see her shoulders shaking. I wrapped my arms around her. After we're married again. She turned over. Really? Cross my heart. You're such a sap. Woof. She giggled, her feet tangling with mine under the covers. Just like 1,000 nights before. We didn't have a ceremony for our second wedding. She wore a simple white blouse to the courthouse. Second time around, you have to be low-key. Then she realized she'd forgotten her birth certificate. I swear I put it in my purse. We found it at home, sitting on the shoe rack. She put her hands on her hips. Did you hide this on purpose? To add to the sense of occasion. It was the same clerk at the counter. You too again, she said, smiling as she stamped the papers. Now, don't come back for a third time, you hear? Claire snatched the marriage certificate. We won't. It was raining when we stepped outside. She stood under the awning, catching drops in her palm. Cole, yeah, if we could do it all over. There are no do-overs. I scooped her up onto my back and ran into the rain. She shrieked, wrapping her arms tighter around my neck. We'll catch a cold, then we'll be sick together. When we took new wedding photos, she insisted on wearing her original dress. The zipper got stuck. I've gained weight. The dress shrank. The photographer told us to look at each other. Her eyes suddenly filled with tears. "The day of the divorce," she whispered. "I waited for you outside the courthouse for 3 hours. I thought you would come and stop me." I wiped away a tear from her cheek. And then it started to rain. My favorite pretzel stand closed up for the day. So I left. The camera shutter clicked. In the photo, she's crying and I'm smiling. The sky behind us is a blaze of sunset colors. The pregnancy was a surprise. She was frying an egg when she saw the 2 lines on the test. Cool. The spatula went flying. I ran into the kitchen. She was holding the test, her hands shaking. "Look, it's burning. The egg is burning." I turned off the stove and pulled her into a hug. "Say that again. You're going to be a dad." The morning sickness was brutal. She'd be crying over the toilet. "This is so horrible." I'd bring her water and rub her back. "It's my fault." "It is your fault." One day in April, she craved strawberries. It was impossible to find fresh strawberries in the winter. I drove all over the city and finally found a farm with a greenhouse. She took one bite and spit it out. "They don't taste right." She was crying and laughing at the same time. "I'm being impossible, aren't I?" "Yes." She kicked me. Gently. When we heard the baby's heartbeat for the first time, she squeezed my hand so tight her knuckles were white. "It sounds like a little train. Takes after you. Always in a rush." At the ultrasound, she pointed at the screen. "Look, the nose is just like yours." "No, it's just like yours." The doctor cleared his throat. "At this stage, it's still an embryo." The night our daughter was born, she was in labor for 12 hours. Her nails dug into my arm. "Cole, you asshole." "I know. I'm an asshole." At 3 in the morning, we heard a cry. Claire looked up, her hair plastered to her forehead. "Boy or girl?" "A girl." She smiled. "Good. She doesn't look like you." We named her Noelle. Her nickname was Ellie. Claire would hold her, humming off-key lullabies. "Ellie's just like you." "How so?" "The way she bites." She glared at me. There were fine lines around her eyes now. She was still beautiful. Her mother came to the 1-month celebration. She left a small gold locket and left without saying much more than my daughter's name. Claire stared after her. I put my arm around her shoulder. "It's okay if you want to cry." "I'm not crying." She bent down and kissed Ellie's forehead. "Mommy has you. That's all I need." This year, we took Ellie to visit her grandfather's grave. Claire pointed to the photograph. "Say, Grandpa." Ellie babbled and reached out her tiny hand. "Dad, this is Ellie," Claire said, wiping the headstone. "I'm doing really well. It's just that Cole is still a pain in the ass." I placed the chrysanthemums down. "Look who's talking." On the way down the mountain, she suddenly stopped. "I know, by the way, that you were the one who helped pay for Dad's medical bills back then." I froze. A nurse told me a young man who wouldn't leave his name paid for everything. I figured it had to be you. Her eyes were red. "Why didn't you tell me?" "It didn't matter." She kicked me. "You always do that." Ellie got scared and started crying. We both rushed to comfort her. In the gentle spring breeze, Claire leaned her head on my shoulder. "Cole, yeah, thank you for coming back to love me." I kissed her forehead, then Ellie's chubby cheek. "Thank you for letting me." The wildflowers were in full bloom, the color of the dress she wore the first time I ever saw her.